Oh, here we go. We're back with weird history. This time, what may have caused the death of Elizabeth I? Now, this isn't a video on the life of the life of a medieval peasant, which they totally got fucking wrong. Or, you know, how life was like in medieval castles, which they also got completely fucking wrong. Calm down, Ryan. Don't get mad before the video starts. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps they got this video right. I swear if they make another fucking claim about people dying, that the average medieval life was 30 years old, I'm gonna lose it. Because it wasn't. Okay? If you made it past childhood, you most likely lived a full life. Now, of course, they died young. They would probably die in their 50s, maybe 60s. Obviously, today we live into our 70s. Late and into 80s, and of course, you know, if you include the death of children, of course, and you average it out, of course, the average life expectancy does go down to like in the 30s. But if you made it past childhood, you would live a full life. Okay, that's just the clarification that's got to be made. Got nothing else to add on here at the beginning. Let's go ahead and, I guess, hopefully learn what may have caused the death of Elizabeth I. If any of you guys know more about Elizabeth I, because I certainly don't know much about her, feel free to inform me down below in the comments if you have disagreements with this video. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive right in.
Once upon a time, snow white skin was considered the chic, sexy look of the Elizabethan English elite. Queen Elizabeth I's signature ghostly makeup.
Let's see if they explain why it was the attractive, the preferred, I guess, appearance for the nobility.
Typified the 16th century ideal for women, her porcelain skin representing nobility and earthly perfection. But to achieve that perfection...
Okay, they're not explaining it. The reason why they were obsessed with being paler is because, as they kind of said with the whole nobility thing, it meant that they didn't have to work in the fields.
Elizabeth covered her face with makeup composed largely of lead. She also rubbed mercury on her lips and probably used a mercury-based makeup remover that ate away at her flesh. Ugh. Today, we're talking about Elizabeth I, the makeup that may have led to her death. But before we get started, just a reminder to subscribe to the Weird History channel and let us know what historical figure you would like us to cover. Now let's get moving. The Queen beckons us. During the Virgin Queen's era, the highest standard for female beauty was smooth, blindingly white skin. To achieve this look, Elizabeth wore Venetian ceruse, a cosmetic made from white lead and vinegar. She powdered her face and neck with the substance transformed.
I mean, I don't understand. Like, I can understand maybe having a preference towards maybe paler skin, right? Now, everyone has their different preferences, but like, being so fucking white like she was, I don't understand how that was appealing. I really don't. Like, I'm pale as fuck, guys. I turn pink in the sun. I don't turn tan. I can't tan. I burn. No matter what I do, I just burn. No matter, I have no success at getting tanner. But, like, I mean, that pale? No.
Forming her poxy skin, more on that later, into an eerie porcelain canvas that probably smelled like sour wine. That's certainly one way to maintain your virginity. Thanks to 400 years of science, we now know that applying lead to the face on a daily basis causes very serious and often irreversible problems like hair loss and skin deterioration, and death by lead poisoning, which in the 16th century was pretty damn final. It may well have been for Queen Elizabeth, but lead wasn't the only poison in her pigments. Let's look at the other suspect. Snow White's mom wished for more than a tiny ghost baby. She also wanted her to have lips as red as blood on winter roses. Made from cinnabar, a toxic mineral containing mercury, the RL Queen's lip stain gave her the signature red mouth that leaps out at you in all those creepy paintings. So, we have two horrific poisons working in tandem through skin absorption over—
How the fuck did she live as long as she did?
For long periods of time. On the surface, the lead face slowly corroded the Queen's skin. In response, Elizabeth wore thicker and thicker layers of makeup, reportedly layering makeup an inch thick toward the end of her life. Symptoms of mercury poisoning include memory loss, irritability, and depression, conditions Elizabeth reportedly experienced.
I definitely have heard the reports of her irritability. And obviously, you know, that could be tied to depression as well.
Towards the end of her life. Now we're
Oh.
getting warmer. In the Elizabethan era, nobles didn't clean off their makeup nightly. Heck, most modern women have been guilty of that at least a couple times. After her maids carefully applied lead and
I mean, why would, you know, you spend like maybe several minutes, maybe even up to half an hour to an hour of applying the makeup. Why would you take it off at night? I mean, yeah, you might smudge it, but, you know, a lot of work. Why would you, you know, just do that, put all that work in for one day and just to take it off at night? Seems like pointless.
Mercury makeup to the royal face, Elizabeth herself wore it for at least a week. Forget about pore blockage. The lead soaked into her skin, causing it to turn gray and wrinkled. When
Oh.
Elizabeth finally had her makeup removed, historians suggest she might have used a gross concoction containing eggshells, alum, and, you guessed it, more mercury. Some claimed the mercury makeup remover left their skin soft, but that was only because it was literally skinning them alive, one layer at a time.
Is that painful?
As a teen,
Had to be
Queen
painful.
Elizabeth didn't wear quite so much lead face, not simply because she was a child, but because she hadn't caught smallpox yet. On October 10th, 1562, she was struck with a high fever and displayed all the hallmarks of the pox. Courtiers worried that Elizabeth would die within the week, but the young royal survived. Unfortunately, the disease left her with permanent scars in her terrible 20s, when life is either a bed of roses or a garbage fire, and scars don't stack the odds against the latter. Smallpox scars were a common problem at the time, hence the willingness of women to wear vinegary lead face. Elizabeth's close friend Mary Sidney got stuck with them too. As Henry Sidney, Mary's husband, wrote, "The scars, to a resolute discomfort, ever since have done and do remain on her face." Trying to survive in an atmosphere of constant bitchiness, Elizabeth did everything possible to cover up such blemishes and keep that virginity on lockdown. Anything to avoid a husband who updates people on his wife's pockmarks.
Yeah, I can see
There
that.
haven't been many female rulers in English history. Let's face it, in any history. A fact with which Elizabeth was all too familiar. She knew all eyes were on her and that any scarring on her face would mark her not as a survivor, but a pariah in those eyes. In 1586, a 50s-ish Elizabeth commented on the weight of these expectations while addressing Parliament. "We princes, I tell you, are set on stages in the sight and view of all the world duly observed. The eyes of many behold our actions. A spot is soon spied in our garments, a blemish noted quickly in our doings." In a ballsy act of pre-Instagram filtering,
It was against the law to create unflattering. I think that was a law for pretty much any noble king.
Elizabeth
king or
flat
queen.
out forbade unflattering portraits of herself. Painters were given an opportunity to get really creative. They had to make her look young and supple and white, even as she entered her autumn years, which in this case is a little too good at describing what happens to human skin after decades of lead makeup. Here's the trick. The artist had to make the portrait recognizable as Queen Elizabeth without showing any of the scarred, sagging, and perhaps even molting skin beneath that inch-thick mask of white. Enter the famous Darnelli portrait, painted in 1575. It became a godsend of a model for later portrayals, as grateful artists reused its depiction of Elizabeth's face in paintings for decades.
Yep.
Elizabeth's
Shocks when an earl saw the queen without her makeup. Uh-oh.
battle against the ravages of time was fierce and lasted literally all her life. One of her wiser tricks was to wear a wig. Lord knows what lunacy would have been used to dye grays away back then. For a long time,
God.
it was basically like Shatner's toupee. It existed, but was never officially confirmed. Until 1599, when the Earl of Essex blew that secret out of the water and immortalized it, expressing his shock upon beholding his
Oh no,
elderly
did he get his head chopped off for that?
queen's mostly bald pate, with only a thin ring of hair hanging about the ears. We can't unsee that now.
Oh, she was that bald? From the makeup? Makeup had to cause that balding, right? Because they said lead and mercury causes balding. I don't put any lead or mercury on my face yet. It's still happening. Sad moment.
Thanks, Earl. In the last months of her life, Elizabeth refused to let doctors examine her. The Queen had fallen into a deep melancholy, according to a member of her court. Still, Elizabeth refused to rest. She believed that if she lay down, she would never get up. So, Elizabeth stood for 15 hours straight, with her ladies spreading pillows around the Queen for when she inevitably collapsed. On March 24th, 1603, Elizabeth passed away. Possible causes of death include cancer or pneumonia, but Elizabeth's use of lead and mercury-based makeup for decades in increasingly liberal doses certainly at least contributed to her declining health. After a lifetime of lead and mercury poisoning, Elizabeth's body was toxic. Elizabeth Southwell, one of the Queen's ladies-in-waiting, claimed that Elizabeth's body burst in her coffin at her wake due to the abundance of noxious vapors.
No fucking way. No. That actually happened? That actually happened. That's fucked up.
Although Southwell's account has often been dismissed as Jesuit propaganda of all things, exploding coffins aren't unheard of, even today. The phenomenon is called exploding casket syndrome, and it's what happens when a corpse is sealed a bit too well. The coffin acts as a pressure cooker for all the gases and fluids produced by a decomposing body until, well, there's a reason this got chalked up to bad religion.
Huh.
Here's another horrible thing. While Elizabeth certainly suffered the effects of lead and mercury poisoning, she may have actually died from blood poisoning. Just a week before she passed in 1603, Elizabeth's doctors recommended a risky procedure. For 45 years, since the day she was crowned, Elizabeth wore a coronation ring. The ring began cutting into Elizabeth's well-poisoned skin and presumably kept on cutting. Doctors warned her that the ring had to be surgically removed, and a week later, she died. And then exploded, depending on who you ask. Evidence of people using lead for makeup dates back to at least the 5th century BCE. During the time of the Roman Empire, women powdered their faces with lead. By the 16th century, the concoction was known as Venetian ceruse, or the spirits of Saturn, Queen Elizabeth's favorite cosmetic. I personally prefer MAC. Unfortunately for her and every other ceruse fan in history, it wasn't classified as a poison until 1634, less than 40 years after her death, which it had at least one hand in, if not both. People knew it caused hair loss and skin damage, but it took a long time for us to figure out that we were literally killing ourselves in the name of beauty. In many ways, we still are. Like it or not, pain and death for beauty is a very old and well-entrenched tradition, and it's not done with us. So what do you think about?
You know what? I think this video was far better done than the previous couple videos that we have watched from Weird History. I think this one was well made, and of course, as I said at the beginning, feel free to inform me if you think that they got information wrong here, because I do not know much about Elizabeth I. So, yeah, go ahead and inform me. But that was what may have caused the death of Elizabeth I. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.